Thank you for tuning in to another episode of G.E.N Talks, the podcast, where the goal is to empower the youth of Glendale and connect you to community resources, individuals, organizations through interviews and discussions. I'm your host, Desiree, and today, unfortunately, Melissa couldn't be joining us, so I'm going to be doing this solo. I had the pleasure of talking to Deb Mercier. Deb lives in Greater Minnesota with her husband, dogs, and outdoor critter friends. She's an award-winning journalist, author of 11 books for young readers, a former newspaper editor, and a technical writer. When Deb's not dreaming up new stories, you can find her wandering the trails on bike and on foot, saving turtles from roadways, and playing flute in the Central Lakes Symphony Orchestra. I hope you enjoy the interview. Thank you, Deb, for taking the time out of your day to talk with me. We have a lot to discuss.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. So to start off the interview, I want to go back in time to when writing started to become something that you loved. If you could talk a little bit more about that.
Sure. I think probably my earliest recollection of really liking to write was back actually in elementary school. So I was the kid who was really annoying, and the teacher would give an assignment for, write a paragraph, and I would turn in 2 pages. And looking back now, I can just see the teachers going, "Oh, more to read."
Right.
But I knew that I loved to tell stories, and I knew that I loved working with words, and so I would just keep going. After that, probably high school is when I started thinking of words as kind of a way to really communicate, and a way to express feelings, a way to put things on paper that are maybe kind of hard to say out loud. So when I was in high school, my mom passed away. And one of the things that I turned to was writing. So I had written a poem about attending her funeral, and this isn't going to be like a very sad interview, but but I had written this poem, and my English teacher at the time submitted it to a competition, and it ended up winning. And I had no idea she had done that. And so that was actually really powerful for me to know that your words could impact someone else. And then I guess moving forward, that's what I pursued in college was English with a creative writing emphasis. And then when my kids were little, I decided that I would go back to school and get my master's in creative writing. It was a 2-year program, and it took me 4 years. I commuted a couple hours each way to go to school, and I would take the night course, whatever workshop that happened to be, whether it was poetry or playwriting or whatever. And then I would take whatever class was offered during the day that would fit into that creative writing major. So I ended up taking some pretty interesting classes. It's just whatever happened to be on Tuesdays.
Right. I like that because writing in a way it was also like a coping mechanism, I guess, for you to let your emotions out, which I think, is great because sometimes we bottle everything up, and then writing kind of helps a bit. And you are a former newspaper editor and technical writer. How was working in those fields, and what did you take away from each of those jobs?
As far as how is working in those fields, it's really interesting because, coming from kind of a creative writing background and then moving first into technical writing, it's a different beast. You're still working with words, and you're still telling stories, so to speak, but they really need to be in a different format. You really learn to edit yourself well. Same thing goes for journalism. I was a newspaper editor for quite a while, and when you're working in journalism, it's telling a story, but it's a different way of telling a story, maybe than if you pick up a fiction book, or if you pick up a kid's book, or it's all different. So no matter what kind of writing that I've been doing, I've always learned something. I've always taken away something from it. I think no matter what you do, you're learning as you go along, and it's been fun.
Do you remember when the idea of you actually wanting to become a published author happened?
That's a tough question to pinpoint. I guess growing up, I read a lot. I was a reader, and I guess the idea was always kind of in the back of my head that, I think I might have some stories to tell, and maybe one day I might be able to share those with people. I think as I went through the master's program, I started to believe that it could actually happen. Just going through the workshops and having people basically take your writing apart
Right.
and then having to put it back together, and just getting more confidence that, hey, you know what, people are actually enjoying this, and they're getting into the stories that I'm submitting, and they're having fun with it. So I think really, if I go back to the question of, when, I think that spark of I can actually do this was when I was going through that master's program.
And then I guess then that, in your master's programs, having people pick at your writing, did that kind of help you when you entered the publishing world? Because, that could be a little bit harsh sometimes. So yeah, how was that journey like for you, the publishing world?
Rough. It's rough.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, when you go through the workshops, you really get a
Mm.
thick skin, and I mean, you can think that you've written the best thing ever, and you put it out there in the workshop, and all of a sudden there's 10 people going,
Yeah.
it's like taking it apart, and you just kind of go, oh.
Right.
But then at the same time, you start to realize, okay, there's one person over here who's saying this is terrible, and then there's 10 people over here saying this is great, this part's really good, you need to keep this. And so you learn that, okay, there's never going to be a time when everybody's going to love what you write,
Mm.
but you start to figure out who to listen to and what voices are helpful and which ones can help you grow. So I think that was part of it too, going through that program. But then when you enter the publishing world, a lot of times it's not even so much that it's harsh or cruel or anything like that. It's just sometimes it can just be crickets. Like,
Yeah. It's like a
you'll
waiting game. Yeah.
yes, you'll submit something, and then it's just like, hmm,
Right.
there's just nothing
Uh-huh.
coming back. And then 6 months later, you might get a reply that says, nah.
Right.
So
Yeah.
you learn to just keep plowing ahead and keep submitting and keep, just keep at it. I think the main thing, if there are people watching that are thinking about becoming a writer, the best thing that you can do is just be persistent. Just go and keep doing it. Something will happen eventually. It's rare that it'll happen right away.
Yeah.
The first manuscript that you submit, you might not even hear anything back.
Hmm.
You just have to keep shopping it around, and eventually you're going to find the right fit.
And so you are an author of many young reader books. What about writing children's books drew you to it as opposed to adult books?
Part of it was reading out loud to my own kids. Really kind of hooked me on children's lit, away from the board books up through reading Harry Potter together out loud. So that hooked me on that kind of lit. And then also in that, I keep going back to that master's program, but I ended up taking a course in fantasy young adult literature, and really dug into the backstory behind it, and into how it's put together, and how you build an entire world, that type of stuff. And I think that really impressed me and drew me in, and I was surprised how much I loved those books that I was reading. I had no idea. I think that's really what drew me in. And then I just started reading and reading and reading kids books, and middle grade books and young adult, and just fell in love with the whole format and the whole genre.
And when it comes to your writing process for books, how do you tackle it? What's your writing process like?
Chaotic. I try so hard to be organized, but it starts with, I can maybe talk more about the more recent projects that I'm working on. So it'll start with an idea, and the title has to come out so far in advance that sometimes even when the title goes out, I'm not even sure what. I know kind of a general idea of what the book is going to be out, but the title's already out there, so it better have something to do with that. Um, but, and then you just start building and building, and the projects I'm working on right now are Choose Your Path adventures. I don't know. Have you read Choose Your Path books before?
Yes, I've seen, yeah, I've seen some and I've looked at them. Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, yeah, they're interesting. So you're going along, and suddenly you have to say, okay, are you going to go right or left? You're like, okay, if you go left, you might fall down a hole. If you go right, you might get to carry on with the story. So it's kind of a big logic puzzle too, which is we were talking about different types of writing before. That tech writing really comes into handy
Yeah.
when when I'm doing the Choose Your Path adventures, because you really have to dig into the logic end of it too and not lose track of any of those little details. I've just recently set up a set schedule each day that I sit down and write. So every morning, that's my writing time. So from 8 to noon, that's what I'm doing. I'm sitting down, I'm writing my stuff and getting that done. And then I have a break. And then in the afternoon, that's when I can try and take care of some of the business type stuff and the emails and all that kind of fun stuff that comes with it too.
And what made you decide to do, choose your own path books where it's, interactive, like you said, and then, you literally make the readers, become kind of part of the story. So I guess, yeah, what was the inspiration behind wanting to do that?
Um, the inspiration is actually the publisher called me up and said, "Hey, do you think you can do this?"
Oh, okay.
So I can take absolutely no credit for the idea. Um, but Ryan Jacobson is a publisher with Lake Seven Creative,
Mhm.
and he and I had met a long time ago at a young authors conference that we were both presenting at, and we've done a few projects together before, and partnered up for different things. And he called me out of the blue one day and said, "Hey, I'm doing this Choose Your Adventure series." He told me a little bit about it. He said, "I've got one that's half done. Do you think you could take a look at it and see if you could finish it?" Like, why not? So yeah, that's kind of how that all started. So like I said, I can't take any credit for the idea.
And in terms of marketing, how do you market your books so that people find out about them?
That's an excellent question. I will admit right up front, I'm a terrible marketer. I am not very good. Um, I tend to just, I scatter. I'm like,
Mm.
rather be in my story and writing, and it's hard for me to sit down and do the business end of things. But I did. This is going to tell you how old I am. I had my daughter give me a tutorial on using Instagram. so so now I can use Instagram sort
Mhm.
of, and I started my own little area there. And then I do have a website that I use to promote books, things like that. And that's fairly new. I learned how to build a website too, so that was fun. Um, and then for this last round of books, Ryan actually hired a publicity firm, and so they were working on promoting our books and things like that. So um, book fairs, I'll go to book fairs. I also present at young author conferences around the state, up in Minnesota. So travel around the state when it's not snowbound. And then also art and craft fairs too, just setting up shop and saying, "Hey, I'm an author," that type of thing.
So in a way, also like doing personal networking, like going around.
Yes.
Okay. Um,
Yes, very much so.
and what is something you take away from this whole experience being an author?
I think persistence in anything. It's really taught me, persistence in writing, but then persistence in other areas of life as well. If there's a goal that you would have in mind, just don't give up on it. Keep working at it. Things don't happen just because,
Mm.
really have to get behind it. And sometimes you really have to shove it forward to get it moving. um, just, yeah, I think that's probably the main thing. And then also making sure that you give yourself a break. Not everything that you write down has to be fabulous.
Yeah.
Just literally, it just has to be there. And then you can work on it later. It used to be that I would try and write a book from beginning to end. It's kind of going back to that writing process you were talking about. So I would try and go, okay, this is the beginning, and I would not let myself write anything over here. I would only start with the beginning, and then I had to go linear all the way through. And then just talking with other writers and stuff, some people I talked to said, hey, why don't you try, if you have an idea for the end, write the end. If
Mm.
you have an idea for something in the middle, write it and just keep it and see where you can fit it in. And I started doing that. So allowing yourself freedom to break from the rigid ideas that you've set up for yourself, I guess, and just trying something new. And that goes for other parts of life too. Just be willing to try new things and see what happens.
And has having other author friends kind of helped you be in this space and kind of helped you, in a way, also feel inspired and continue doing what you do?
Yeah, yeah, most definitely. Um, Having other people in your life who are doing the same type of thing that you are doing or have experienced the same type of things that you have experienced is really, really important. Um, I think that goes for a lot of professions and a lot of just situations. If you're going through something tough and someone else is also going through the same type of thing, it helps to commiserate with each other and talk to each other, um, and give each other ideas. So yeah, same thing with writing. Not that writing is, awful.
I also want to talk about the Central Lakes Symphony Orchestra. You play the flute. How was music introduced into your life?
Oh gosh, music has been with me forever. I'm trying to think when I first, yeah, I listened to a lot of music as a kid, and then I guess in sixth grade I started playing the flute. I found out it was something that I really loved, and I really loved playing with the group and making music with a group, um, and just kept at it. And um, I for a while after college I didn't play for quite a while, and then the town where I live now, Alexandria, has it's got the Central Lakes Symphony Orchestra. Here it's kind of a regional orchestra, but it's based here, so it was very easy for me to, um, I shouldn't say it was very easy. I literally had to blow the dust off my flute. So
Yeah.
I did that and went and uh, brushed up a little bit, and then went and auditioned, and thankfully was accepted into the orchestra. And I've been playing with them for quite a few years. And yeah, and if you think about it, music and writing kind of go together. Music and math also go together, but music and writing, because when I write, if it doesn't sound right when I speak it out loud, like
Mm,
the physicality of it sounds off, then it's not right, and I have to redo it. Whether, and it goes for whatever type of effect you're going for too. I mean, if you're in a really scary scene, this might sound weird, but the sound of it needs to be scary as well. So we're talking short, choppy phrases. We're talking words that have edges to them. I mean, you're not going to be talking about roses and things if you're trying to scare
yeah.
someone. I mean, maybe you will, but um, I don't know if that makes any sense. But the music and words for me, go together.
I love that, and it does make sense. I like that comparison. And overall, what does this all mean to you being an author and having a chance to have others read your words?
That's a big question. It honestly means the world to me. It means a chance to do something that I love and a chance to share that with other people. I think it's a rare opportunity. I
Mm.
view it as a privilege to be able to put something down on paper and have other people read it and get something from it, hopefully.
Before we end, I have some rapid fire questions to ask you. The first question is, what is your favorite color?
Blue.
When are you the happiest?
When am I the happiest? When I'm reading with a puppy on my lap.
Knowing what you know now, what advice would you give your 18-year-old self?
Never give up.
If you could have 3 people, dead or alive, for dinner guests, who would they be?
I think Douglas Adams, Barack Obama, and my mom.
What is a song that you have on repeat currently?
I have the soundtrack from the movie Soul.
Oh,
I play that all the time because it lifts me up while I'm writing, but it's also some really interesting kind of gnarly passages too that help me write when I've got some other. This isn't a rapid fire answer, is it? But
no, you're fine. It's not really rapid fire. It's
okay.
yeah.
Yeah, it's just got some gnarly passages that help when I'm writing a type of scene that's not, that has some gnarly bits to it, I guess.
And then lastly, what is a book that you have read recently or are currently reading that you would recommend?
All right, so this is the one I have from the library right now. I just picked that up because I liked the cover and I liked the back text. So
it's a very pretty cover, actually. Yeah.
yeah, so we'll see how that goes. The one I just finished that I absolutely loved.
Oh, okay.
I'm a sci-fi nerd too, so I loved this one, Hail Mary. I had my whole stack of books right here.
I love it.
Another one of my favorites.
Okay.
And then going back to Douglas Adams, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, it's got to be done. And then as far as classic, you can never go wrong with Fahrenheit 451.
Yeah.
Those are some of my favorites.
Oh, I love that. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Deb. I learned a lot about you. Thank you for taking your time out of your day to sit down with me and talk. Can you let everyone at home know about any upcoming projects and where they could connect with you?
Sure. I'm working on right now the 4th book of the Detective U series. That one is called The Fortune Teller's Curse. We're also currently working on The Captured Eagle, which is book 3 of the Detective U series. So those will be coming out this spring. And then as far as connecting up, you can always check out my website, which is debwritesbooks.com. And then on Instagram, I am, thank you, Callan, my daughter, I am mercier.deb on Instagram. So
awesome. Well, thank you again, once again. It was a pleasure getting to know you and just having this conversation. So thank you so much.
yes, thanks. And it was a pleasure to meet you as well. Thank you so much.
Did you enjoy that episode? I'm sure you did. Don't forget to follow us on our socials, both on Facebook and Instagram at MyGlendale.LAC. And follow us on Spotify and Apple or anywhere where you get your podcast from at T.G.N Talks. Also, make sure to give us a like and subscribe to the YouTube channel Glendale Library Arts and Culture, where we post the full episode videos every Friday at 4:30 p.m.